Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for Fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan and I'm back with another tier list video. This time it's the big one because we're going to be going through the most popular FPL picks and we're going to decide whether they are great picks to go for. We all agree, we're all on the same page, or maybe some of these players can go straight in the bin despite their popularity. So guys, if you do enjoy this one, please do drop a like, do subscribe if you're new around here and you want daily FPL videos. Let's have a look at this tier list. So we've got 30 players to put on this list, the 30 most popular players in FPL at time of recording, and we're going to be harsh today. We've got to be harsh. There's only a certain amount of available space on each tier, so be prepared for a couple of controversial takes in this video, but we're going to throw it out there. We're going to go for the 30th most popular player in the game right now, first of all, and that is going to be Darwin Nunez, who is probably a risky pick. I think we agree with that one. You guys have watched my video yesterday will know that Darwin Nunez was one of those risky picks, but a high risk, high reward pick. So if you're prepared to take that risk on Darwin, he could have an insane season this year, or he could disappoint a lot of us like he did last year. But he definitely has that potential to be a big pick. So he's not an avoid, but he is a player who has some risk to him. Now we're going to put Ederson in solid pick, which I know a lot of people will say that, well, Ederson, what does he provide? He just provides clean sheets. Well, what else are you going to get from a Manchester City defender in general? All that they have is centre-backs. They don't really have any attacking defensive players anyway. So really, we're only really going to be getting clean sheets from those Man City guys at the back in general anyway. And with the great fixtures they have, you're probably going to get a few of them. Now, you know Ederson's going to play every game. You know he's going to keep plenty of clean sheets. He probably won't get save points or bonus points, but he may get the odd save point, I guess. So could be a solid pick, I guess. Like, there's nothing wrong with him. If you can't really be bothered to decide on a goalkeeper and you just want clean sheets, he does the job, I guess. Jordan Pickford up next. He's going to go in the risky category. Obviously, Everton have some good fixtures, and 4.5 million is a nice, cheap price for a goalkeeper. But Everton are a team that have disappointed for years now, and we've never really seen Pickford very high in the FPL point scoring tables, and things are probably not expected to change anytime soon for Everton. But you never know. They could have a good season. If you really think they're going to have a good start to the season and fixtures are more important to you than, considering how bad Everton are, then maybe you can go for him, I guess. There's definitely risk there, and you will not convince me that he is not a risky pick, because he is. Next up, Phil Foden. I feel like he's actually probably a solid pick. He is, obviously a little bit risky there. I did include him in the high risk, high rewards video yesterday, but I feel like he's actually a fairly solid pick. I think he should be fairly more nailed on than last year, and he obviously has very high potential with some amazing fixtures, so could go very well for you there. Ollie Watkins, another solid pick, an underrated pick, I think. A lot of people are ignoring Ollie Watkins. There's a couple of difficult fixtures here for Aston Villa, but in general, Watkins and Aston Villa are a team that were really good second half of last season under Emery, and I feel like that form could continue into the new year. So Ollie Watkins, solid, decent, ignored by a lot of people, but I still think he's very good. Saliba, I feel like he is again a solid pick. You can't really go too wrong with him. If you want to weigh into the Arsenal defence, you can get him for 5 million. That's not too bad. Did score the odd goal, get the odd assist at the start of last season, but if I'm totally honest, he doesn't have a huge amount of attacking threat, and he is a player who actually kind of trolls us on the stats as well. It looks like he has a lot of points per game compared to some of the other Arsenal defenders, but that's simply because when he left the team, Arsenal were worse at defending. So if everyone is fit and available, then I think some of these other Arsenal defenders are going to outscore Saliba, but he's still reasonably solid. He could do a lot worse than to go for him, but I don't think he's my favourite Arsenal defender, and I would not be going for him personally with the other options on display. We're going to have our first avoid of the video. That's going to be Alexis McAllister. Yeah, just really not convinced by this one at all. Yes, he'll get game time. Yes, he will play, but how many attacking returns are you honestly expecting from him? Liverpool have so many great attackers. Jota, Darwin, Diaz, Salah, Szoboszlai, Trent Alexander-Arnold's going to be getting involved in some of those goals. I'm sure I've missed out some more players as well, because they have so many attackers, don't they, who are all going to be contributing and getting involved in those goals. What kind of slice of the pie do you think McAllister is going to have there? If he does really well, he maybe is involved in about 20% of Liverpool's goals. You're going to need Liverpool to be scoring 5 goals every game, really, to see any kind of meaningful returns from McAllister. He's probably not going to get bonus points with the likes of Salah and Darwin banging those goals in. So, therefore, just can't see him getting many points this season. I feel like if you just go for a 6.5 million midfielder instead of him, you are going to have a lot more potential. You're going to get those more talismanic players in your team who are going to be more heavily involved in those attacking returns. So McAllister, no penalties this year, no set pieces this year. He's just not going to offer the same amount. He's going to be playing a little bit deeper than he was last year, the second half of last season for Brighton as well. You're not going to get the same amount of FPL points from him, I'm afraid, despite the fact he is obviously a very talented footballer, but not for FPL for me, I'm afraid. Next up, Reece James, risky. I think a little bit risky. We know about his injury records, don't we? And obviously, we've got Gusto in there as well. It does seem like there is a left side dominance on that Chelsea defence as well. So maybe Reece James is actually going to be tucking in and not being quite as attacking as he has done in previous seasons. I do think I prefer Chilwell to Reece James, but that's not to say, if Cucurella starts for Chelsea, for example, maybe we see James actually being the defender who's pushing further forward and getting the attacking returns. So there's potential there. So he's not on a void, but there is obviously a lot of risk. I'm going to put him slightly below Darwin Nunez, though, because I think I'd be more willing to take a punt on Darwin. Next up, Tyrone Mings, which is another slightly interesting one, because I'm not exactly sure how this Aston Villa defence is going to line up. We've seen a few different combos in the pre-season, so it's kind of difficult to say, but it looks like we could see, we could see Costa playing, we could see Mings playing, we could see Torres playing, we could see Konsa playing, we could see Moreno playing and Cash playing, or just one of the two of those guys playing. Digne may come in and get some game time as well. It's all over the place, and I feel like Mings is actually not as nailed on as he has been in previous seasons. I feel like the likes of Pau Torres is maybe a little bit more nailed on. The new signing, obviously, with a lot of pedigree. So if you're thinking about going for a 4.5 million Aston Villa defender, probably would be looking to go for Pau Torres over Tyrone Mings, but so it's kind of up to you, but I feel like there is a little bit of risk there that is not being spoken about enough. Amari Bell, we're going to go straight into the avoid category. I think at the start of FPL, he kind of emerged as the 4 million defender to go for, but I feel like that's quickly been debunked. He's not even the best 4 million defender at his own club anymore. We've got obviously Kabore, who's come in, should be playing slightly more advanced and maybe getting even more game time than Bell. Bell obviously plays at left centre back a lot of the time, so we're not going to see many attacking returns from him. We haven't really ever seen many attacking returns from Bell in his entire career, so he's not going to get that. Luton Town should concede a decent amount of goals this year as well. There's really not too many benefits to going for Bell, and there's actually some great 4 million defenders to go for this year. We did discuss that in a previous video. If you do want to go check out my cheap bench players video, where we discussed that a little bit further, but Bell is pretty low down on that list as far as I'm concerned. Right, we need to put some players a little bit higher on this list, so I'm going to put Onana in the great pick category. I think in terms of goalkeepers, Onana is probably your best safe bet to go for. It's very easy to pick this goalkeeper. I feel like, if again, like I kind of said with Edison, if you can't be bothered to make a decision or think too much into it, I would probably go straight for Onana, to be honest. I feel like he's just the best guy to go for. You're going to get the odd save point, you're going to get a decent amount of clean sheets, and you could get the odd bonus point as well when there are clean sheets because of Onana's distribution. So there is some benefits, actually, for going for him. Even though you might not get as many clean sheets as Edison, I feel like the other factors could factor in a little bit more and actually make Onana outscore Edison. So, yeah, like him. Great pick. Nkunku is going to be probably risky, I would say. Probably risky. We'll put him alongside Darwin Nunez, those 7.5 million forwards. Not exactly sure how well Chelsea are going to do this year. I think there's reasons to be positive and optimistic. The problem with Nkunku is that he is probably going to be playing a lot of the time behind the striker or on the wing. And since he's listed as a forward, you're not going to get the maximum points potential out of a player like him. Maybe we would prefer to go for a Jackson, who's going to be playing as the true number 9 compared to Nkunku. But Nkunku is also on penalties, so definitely some positive to be taken there, but he is a little bit risky. You've got to accept that if you're going for him. Ødegaard, I would say, is also a little bit risky this year. Did really well last year, but with Havertz in that midfield, you just do wonder if Ødegaard is going to have slightly more defensive responsibilities this year. Maybe not quite as attacking as he was last year with Xhaka on the other side. We may see Ødegaard and Havertz kind of taking turns to go a little bit further up the pitch, or if Trossard is playing in that left 8 position as well, Ødegaard may be forced to be a little bit deeper there as well. So I can't see Ødegaard having quite as good of a season as he did last year. We saw him overperform a lot of the time last season as well. So therefore, I feel like there is a lot of risk risk of going for him over the likes of Martinelli or going for, you know, Saka and Gabriel Jesus. I feel like those guys are just a little bit safer if you're looking for that Arsenal pick. So, not a bad pick, but I think there's a little bit of risk there compared to last season anyway. But maybe there's some argument to say he's solid. At the very least, he is high tier risky. Next up, Gabriel, another great pick as far as I'm concerned. Way above Saliba. You know, a lot of people debating, should I go for Gabriel or Saliba? Both centre-backs, both similar price. When they're both on the pitch, it's Gabriel who is far more likely to get the attacking returns. And Arsenal are really good from those set pieces. And it does seem like every time a cross comes in from a set piece, it is aimed at Gabriel's head. So Gabriel will be the main attacking threat from those set pieces by far in this Arsenal team. Saliba may get the odd attacking return, but it's not really going to come close to Gabriel. Saliba actually a little bit lucky to get some of his attacking returns that he did last season. So there is a bit of a gulf here between these two players. You're going to get the same amount of points for clean sheets, but one player is going to be getting the attacking returns. And his name is Gabriel Maga something. Next up, Brian Bruno. Let's put him in the solid pick category in terms of 6.5 million midfielders. I feel like Bruno is probably one of the better ones to go for. I mean, I'd possibly even put him in great pick, but I don't want to quite put him in that same category. I don't think he's in the category of elite midfielders quite. So we're going to put him high, solid pick. I think, you know, can't really go wrong with him. There are other options at 6.5. Lots of great options, actually, but Mbeumo is possibly my favourite. He's going to be on penalties. He's going to be playing in a quite advanced position there. And he's going to be fairly talismanic for Brentford as well, which is all positive signs for a good FPL pick. Ramsdale, risky. I'm going to put him in the risky category. And the reason for that is because, we may see David Raya coming to Arsenal very, very soon, which is obviously going to be adding some competition, potential rotation there. But also, I don't see why you would go for a goalkeeper from Arsenal. Arsenal have amazing fixtures. There's so many points potential for this Arsenal team and their players. I wouldn't really be looking to waste an Arsenal slot on a goalkeeper. There's going to be many other goalkeepers who can score a similar amount of points to Ramsdale, like the likes of Onana and Edison. I can see them comfortably scoring equal or more points than Ramsdale, and it allows you to go for an extra Arsenal attacker or an extra Arsenal defender who may get the odd goal from a set piece or something like that, or get an assist potentially if you go for a fullback. Ramsdale just not the one for me, I'm afraid. Salah, I know a lot of people would say he's a must-have, and if we were 2 years ago, I'd probably agree with you. I feel like he is probably, at this stage, a solid pick. I mean, it seems harsh, because if like, money was no issue, he'd be going in great pick. In fact, if money was no issue, you would just be putting him in your team. It would be no doubt about it. But unfortunately, we are on a budget, and there's a lot of midfielders, particularly around the 8 million to 9 million mark, that we perhaps like to spread our money. The problem with Salah this year is that he's not really a captain option anymore. You know, we're probably going to be captaining Erling Haaland a lot of the time. Salah, not so much. He's playing a little bit wider as well at the moment, so he's not going to be getting quite as many goals as previous season, so which, again, reduces his captain ability, and therefore he is a good pick. If you have the budget, go for him, but I don't think he's a must-have anymore. I think there is arguments to go for him. I think there is arguments to not have him in your team. It's kind of up to you which way you want to go on that one. I think there are good arguments to be made on either side of that fence. So I'm not going to put him any higher than a solid pick, but that's purely down to our budget restrictions. If we found ourselves with a lot of money in the bank, he would be going a lot higher in this tier list. So did want to caveat that one very, very quickly. Botman is going to go up next. He is a player with terrible fixtures, but he plays for a good defence, and he's only 4.5 million. So in that sense, there are some benefits for going for Botman. Maybe you can just leave him on your bench for a few game weeks, wait till the fixtures look a bit better, and then look to start integrating him into your FPL team. That is possible, I guess, but certainly at the start of the season, you're probably not going to get too much use out of Botman, so it becomes a little bit of a risk in that kind of regard. But yeah, let's move on to Bruno Fernandez, who I do think is a great pick. Yeah, I know you guys are going to be shouting at your screen saying, how can Salah be a solid pick, but Bruno is a great pick? Well, for starters, there's a 4 million price difference there. That is a huge price difference between the two players. Fernandez coming down a decent amount of wedge this season, and he was really unlucky not to get more attacking returns last season. He was creating so much for Manchester United, but they just didn't have a striker. Now they do. That should improve it. Hopefully, we're going to see more penalties for United this year as well, because they got next to no penalties last year, and Fernandez obviously was not able to benefit from that because he is a penalty extraordinaire. Gets a lot of his FPL points from that. I think he's a great pick. I think he's going to have a really good season in FPL. I can see him having a 200-point year this year, and there are some good fixtures to take advantage of. I like this pick a lot. He's not really been left out of any of my drafts I've made. So for that reason, because he's been in pretty much every team I've made all season, I guess he has to be a fairly high tier great pick. Like, in my opinion anyway. Maybe some of you guys will disagree with me on that one, but I think he's going to have a really, really good year. John Stones, despite his popularity, has a little bit of risk because he is a Man City player and Man City players get rotated. And I know a lot of people like that John Stones gets the odd goal, but I feel like he doesn't get as many attacking returns as a lot of people think he does. I don't think he's as much of an attacking threat as people kind of assume. And he did get a couple of attacking returns last year, but in general, I've been kind of looking through his numbers. They're no more impressive than many, many other centre-backs and defenders in FPL. Yes, you're going to be getting clean sheets from him, but he's not really going to be a high-scoring defender in general. We know the Man City defenders don't really get bonus points really at all. It's going to be a similar situation to Ederson, where he should play most of the games, but he's probably not going to get more than 6 points per game. But he isn't quite as nailed on as Ederson. Yes, you do have that small chance of an attacking return, which I guess puts him ahead of Ederson in that regard. But to me, there's not really too much difference. They're both solid picks. They're both okay defenders to go for, but they're nothing more than that. 6-point merchants probably for a lot of the season. Maybe you get lucky and get a little bit more now and again. But, if we're looking for those really mega high-scoring defenders who are regularly getting attacking returns, John Stones is just not going to be one of those guys, but he will get those clean sheets, which is definitely something that's important in FPL. But the bonus points or lack of bonus points does put me off him a little bit. Next up, Trent Alexander-Arnold, who has gone a little bit out of fashion recently. Now, hasn't been in my team for a few weeks now, so I don't think I can put him in great pick because I'm not really that bothered about having him in my team. The fixtures are okay. We are a little bit worried about how attacking or defensive he'll be prior to Liverpool kind of signing that CDM. They still haven't signed a defensive midfielder, so that is a problem. But Trent is still a decent pick. I think if he was still at 7.5 million, I'd be more confident in him. But he's got that price rise, and I don't know if he's going to do particularly better than last year necessarily. Maybe Szoboszlai takes a few set pieces off him potentially there as well. He's a solid pick. He's a good pick to go. He's a good player to go for, but when we look at a lot of the other kind of players in the 8 million bracket, particularly in midfield, I would perhaps rather spend my money in those midfield positions than go for Trent. I feel like there is other better value to be had elsewhere. But solid pick, good player to go for if you want to. But yeah, definitely not a must-have or anything like that. But yeah, he's fine. He's fine. If you fancy him, go for him. Next up, Gabriel Jesus, another player who is very much a solid pick. I feel like he is the default forward to go for right now. Good price point, very, very good price point. Gets a lot of good underlying stats, but a pretty poor finisher, to be fair. But we're going to put him above Watkins. I feel like out of the forwards on this tier list, he's probably the most solid, but I can see a lot of people trading him out for some of the other forwards. When we get a better idea of how well Watkins is doing, how well Darwin and Nkunku, Jackson, and the Newcastle forwards as well, once we get a better idea about those guys, I can see us moving towards those more risky players. But for right now, he's just a good, solid player to go for if you can't really make a decision on a forward. Just go for Jesus, I guess. Next up, Areola. Again, solid pick. If you want a 4 million goalkeeper, pretty much the standard player to go for. Nothing too interesting there, but could potentially get some starts for West Ham. We're not exactly sure if he's going to be the new starting goalkeeper for West Ham or not, but if he is, amazing. Great pick. Maybe even a must-have, but right now, I just think he's just a solid and sensible 4 million goalkeeper to go for. Next up, Luke Shaw. I feel like he is also another solid player to go for. Absolutely fine. No problems with going for him whatsoever. Maybe a little bit pricey at 5.5 million. Would maybe prefer him at 5 million, but still fairly good value for money. Let's put him alongside the likes of Ederson and Stones there. Yeah, decent defender to go for. Absolutely no problem with going for him. But we are heading towards the really popular players. Top 6 most popular players in FPL. And yet, I am going to put one of these players in the avoid category, and that's Kieran Trippier. He's going in the avoid category. 6.5 is a lot of money for a defender who has fixtures this difficult. The fixtures are really bad. Clean sheets are going to be few and far between at the start of the season. I'd actually probably be looking to bench Trippier against the likes of Man City and Liverpool in game weeks 2 and 3. I just don't see much point in going for him. I feel like he's going to drop in value over the first couple of weeks. People will switch to other defenders when they see him scoring low points. If you want to get Trippier, wait till game week 5, 6, bring him in then. You'll probably pick him up for 6.2 million, to be fair. So right at the start of the season, just going to be an avoid for me. I do want to put Mitoma somewhere. I want to put him in solid pick, really, but we're running out of room here. And like I said, I did want to be a little bit more harsh, so we're not packing up the categories too much. I don't want to sit on the defense too much and put everyone in solid pick, but I do want to put Mitoma there. So we're going to have to move someone up or down. Maybe we move Foden down to risky. Maybe we move Salah up to great pick. What would you guys do? Or maybe we do both. I tell you what, let's do both. We'll open up a couple of spaces in in this particular tier list solid section. So yeah, we're not going to be sitting on the fence quite as much. Salah's gone up to a great pick. Foden's gone down to a risky pick, which means Mitoma can go next to Mbeumo. I still think I slightly prefer Mbeumo, particularly for minutes. There is a lot of players competing for minutes at Brighton at the moment, which is a little bit concerning. We'll see what happens there. But opening games, solid pick to go for Mitoma there. We've got Rashford. I think he is probably got to go into the great pick category, kind of alongside Fernandez there, those Manchester United attackers. Rashford probably starts the season in striker, which would be pretty nice, whilst Højlund is still getting used and running, getting up to speed in this Manchester United team. So we could see some striker position for him, but even at left wing, he'll do pretty well. But I really do think that with the new striker at United, Fernandez, his ability and his potential is going to go up. Rashford probably stays around the same, and considering Fernandez is cheaper than Rashford, I do still think we should put Fernandez just ahead of Rashford. I feel like Rashford won't have as much pressure or kind of a need to score goals in this team. Those goals may be spread a little bit more, but Fernandez, his assist-making potential has actually gone up. So prefer Fernandez to Rashford if I could only pick one of them. Even if they were the same price, I probably would still pick Fernandez, to be fair. But that's not to say Rashford is a bad pick. I still think he's a great pick. If you can manage to afford both of these guys, I would be doing that. Next up, Saka. Another great pick. He has to go in the great pick category, doesn't he? Pretty solidly nailed on there, on penalties as well for Arsenal with some great fixtures. Let's put him alongside some of these other guys. Is he better than Rashford and Fernandez? We're certainly more popular than them, I guess. So I don't know. I feel like Fernandez, I feel like I'd rather go for Fernandez than Saka, to be fair. So I'm going to put Saka maybe a rose between two thorns here for the Arsenal man. So yeah, but still really, really a great pick. Definitely in these higher categories. I'm going to put Purvis Estupiñán up here as well. I feel like he is also a great pick to go for the start of the season. Good attacking potential, clean sheet potential with these easy fixtures as well. Let's put him slightly ahead of Gabriel. I'm going to put him right about there. I like that for him. Looks good. And no wonder he's so popular, because he is a great pick indeed. Which leaves just one man. And the only must-have on this entire tier list is going to be Erling Haaland. I really don't think, if we're being deadly honest about FPL this year, there are some great picks there. There are some awesome players in this tier list today, and some players I maybe judged a little bit too harshly, but we've got to put some players higher and we've got to put other players lower. If we're going to put one player at the tippy top, the one player every FPL team should have probably, it is Erling Haaland. And a few of you guys might say, well, I don't want to go for him. But be honest with yourselves. Are you just saying that because you just want to be different? Or do you genuinely believe that he is a player who isn't a must-have? I imagine most of you guys, even if you're not picking him, still kind of think, it's maybe a bad idea to go about this guy. And for all of these other players, I would be more open to listening to an argument to go about them. But certainly, these top two kind of tiers, I would say, make sure you have kind of, I don't know, most of these players. You want an Erling Haaland. You want to have at least 4 or 5 of these players in the great pick category. Probably some cheaper guys in the category below that. A couple of cheaper guys from the solid pick as well you could potentially go for. I would sprinkle the odd risky player in your team. Don't go too heavy on them. But the avoid straight up would not be picking up any of those players. And that pretty much concludes our tier list today. I think I actually nailed it. I think I've actually nailed this tier list. You guys are going to complain. You probably want all of these players in at least great pick or must have, but we got to spread it out a little bit, haven't we, guys? We're talking about the popular players. This is like the hardest tier list video to make of the whole preseason because they're popular. A lot of people are picking these players and they don't want to see their players in the lower categories, but got to be honest with you guys for my opinions, and that's exactly where they're going to go. So let me know what you think. Is there any players in this list you think I've got really, really wrong? Is there any players you think I've got really, really right? And are there any other players that you think could fit into this tier list in maybe some of these other categories as well? Now, obviously, guys, if there was any players missing from this tier list that you'd be interested to hear where I would rank them, there are plenty of other tier list videos that I've made already this pre-season. Did a differentials video last week where we rated all of the differentials that you guys are picking at the moment, but we also have every position. So we've got goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders, and forwards all have their own separate tier list. So if you want to have a deep dive into all of the options in a specific position, I do recommend you go check that out. I put all of the tier list videos in a playlist if you want to go through all of them, so that's absolutely fine as well. But do make sure you do drop a like if you enjoyed this one, subscribe if you're new around here, and don't forget to check out Fantasy Football Hub. They still got their 50% off deal running right now if you want to go check that out and get the bargain whilst you still can, and you get your money back if you don't win your FPL mini league this year as well. So check that out, link in the description. Aside from that, thanks so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates. Bye bye.